Greetings, B-movie aficionados.
Hello, welcome to Couple of Flicks. I am Tristan.
I am Nick.
And I'm Zach.
Yeah, and we are continuing to review every film on the bottom 100 on IMDb. And the film that we are going to discuss today is the Guy Ritchie 2001 picture, Swept Away, starring Madonna and I don't even remember the other guy's name.
Yeah, I have no idea who that guy was.
It is it's not. I've seen him in a bunch of I know I've seen him in some other stuff. Yeah.
I was gonna say his name is Adriano Giannini.
Oh yeah, Giannini. Okay, yeah. All right, I know who that is. Yeah. Okay, so so it is a remake of a Louis Ventmere film from, I think it was the 70s, which is an Italian film. And yeah, it was directed. Yeah, it was directed by Guy Ritchie, who. Oh yeah, and I forget the title. The original title has like a longer. It was called like "Swept Away by like an Unusual Destiny of something or other." Like it has a longer title, but I'm not remembering what it is.
So, yeah, I had no idea anything about it except Guy Ritchie directed it.
Yeah, well, yeah, he was married to Madonna at the time, and
I didn't know he did.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think of this movie as anything other than a vanity project, but yes. Oh well. Anyway, do you want to like read the plot summary? Should we start from there? Or?
Sure. The one on Wikipedia is not that great, but we can elaborate on it.
Well,
yeah.
Did you guys like it, or like what were your general thoughts on it?
Oh,
I mean, what shit or like?
Well, I don't know. Do you guys want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go. Do you want to go?
No, you can go.
I thought it was awful, and I don't think it deserves to be on this list, but it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think part of Madonna wasn't acting. I don't know. Like in the beginning when she was a bitch, she seemed genuine, but towards the end, her acting got worse. You know.
Yep, when she started getting nicer or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was totally fake.
Yeah, she did a little bit too good a job playing the role, even though like she was really like not a good actor. She's usually, I mean, I've seen like more than my fair share of Madonna vehicles, and she's pretty limited as an actor, and seeing her in this, like, this might be her worst role, and that's saying a lot because like she was pretty bad in like Body of Evidence with Willem Dafoe, and like the other stuff I've seen her, even like her cameo in whatever James Bond movie she was in wasn't any good really, but whatever, I guess. Yeah, so I guess to describe the plot,
and before I will say I don't think I'm a Madonna fan at all. Like I can't recall any music she's done, and then just I don't know, something about her attitude that she puts off these just puts me off on her.
Yeah.
I
mean, I have a few of her albums, I will admit. I'm not the biggest fan, but I do like some of her songs, and I do enjoy the fact that that she likes to kind of experiment as an artist, and most of the time her experiments tend to be, like, in my opinion, a little bit misguided. but I still feel like sometimes she does some interesting work as a musician, not as an actor, but as a musician. So, and yeah, and so I can understand why this movie's on the bottom 100, but I would agree that it doesn't really deserve to be on the bottom 100 as a film, just because like it's bad, but it's not like not really badly made or anything like that. It just kind of sucks, basically.
Yeah.
So, and the green screen work is pretty poor too, I thought. So
Yeah, that was some funny shit.
yeah.
They were like floating through the air at one point for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even really have to read the Wikipedia article, because like it's pretty easy to summarize this movie, really. Like when you actually like look at the whole thing, it's pretty much she is on a cruise ship with a group of her like rich
yacht.
friends. Yeah, yacht.
You're getting ahead of yourself. Cruise ship's in the next one.
That's right. Yeah. Whoops. But yeah, she's on a yacht with her husband and like her sort of circle of kind of aristocratic, bratty people, and pretty much the crew on the ship
We had
is oh yeah.
And we had the stereotypical like rich Stepford wives or whatever you'd call them, whatever. Like the drunken pill popping one, the young ditzy one, and then Madonna the bitchy one.
Yeah.
Right out of the stereotype of tropes and everything.
Yeah, they're all generic rich people who basically just do nothing in the movie other than complain. And that's pretty much like mostly all you get for the first like 30 or so minutes of the movie, perhaps. Like it's like a lot of rich people complaining.
The ditzy one, Elizabeth Banks, played by she doesn't complain too much because she's a dumbass, but
Yeah. Yeah, she's not smart enough to really know what to complain about.
She was my favorite of the three.
Yeah. I would say she was probably the least annoying, so I guess she'd be my favorite too. But anyway, so Madonna and her cronies, they get on this boat, pretty much just treat everybody like garbage. Mostly just complain about like literally everything, even stuff that's not even really worth complaining about. That like to the point where it actually starts to almost become a stretch. Like you do kind of have to wonder after a certain point, like, are rich people this miserable? Because if so, I would hate to be rich. Like this is a good example of why being rich would be a nightmare, because none of these people seem like happy even slightly, which is interesting because they have all this money. You usually associate money with happiness, but yeah, these are the most miserable people ever. So
yeah, I mean that's kind of one of the things they're trying to get across with the movie too. I guess.
Yeah, they really got to hammer it though.
Yeah.
But anyway, so enter who Madonna keeps calling
yeah, Pee and Guido.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say that right these days.
Yeah, kind of racist. Yeah. So, but she basically just like she pretty much treats him like a slave, and they immediately like hate each other like within like the first 2 minutes of the movie. Like it's like the opposite of a meet cute. It's like a meet angry. Basically all they do is sneer at each other. They look at each other and they constantly look pissed off. But then occasionally they glance over at one another, like while somebody's doing something, like while she's like sunbathing or while he's sort of like changing his shirt or something, and they kind of have a blank look, like, and then like they just go about their business.
Yeah.
So
you knew they were fucking.
Clear whether they like each other or not.
They were gonna fuck. You knew they were gonna fuck.
Yeah.
Especially because there's that one little scene where she was, I don't know, drunk. She got like drunk and met him in the hallway, and she was totally coming on to him, and then he was like, fuck off, because he hated her.
Yeah.
Fuck
She's
off,
like,
get out of here.
she's like, dance with me. He's like, you only dance with people that I like.
Right, yeah.
But what's interesting though is that you do know that they're gonna become an item, so to speak. But what's funny is that the movie, like, even though they make it clear that that's what's gonna happen, like the actors really like don't put any effort into trying to like generate any sort of flow or chemistry or anything. The way they look at each other is so blank. They don't have any sort of like questioning or like contemplative moments where they like pause or turn around or anything like that. They just like stare at each other for like a moment and then walk away.
Yep.
So basically the only reason that those shots of them staring at each other are in the movie is to establish that they're going to screw, but they don't really express that. They don't express that sentiment at all. So it's just kind of, I don't know. Basically, Guy Ritchie, like as the director, has to do pretty much all the storytelling work because the actors really don't try. But he doesn't even really do a very good job at it because his style just does not gel very well with this story.
Right, not at all. Like because it was like the first 30 minutes they're on the boat, and I could see some Guy Ritchie coming through, like with the crew members, the kitchen guys, like those are like the two cooks are very stereotypical Guy Ritchie characters, and same with like the captain. He's like kind of, you know, in one of his mob boss movies, he'd be like the mob boss type character.
Yeah.
You know, Felipe or PP would be like, you know, your main Jason Statham, but not as witty, kind of more douchey.
Yeah. And actually that's probably the biggest problem with this movie is that, like, you know, we're following these two characters. They have pretty much zero redeeming qualities.
Yes, I noticed that immediately.
Yeah. I didn't like a single thing about either of these people. I really kind of wish they drowned, actually.
Yeah.
Like, and you know,
make it a 30-minute movie and be like, what should I do?
Yeah. I mean, I actually would have liked it a lot more if they had drowned. It would have been a better movie.
Yep.
You know, but instead we're pretty much just stuck with these people. And it's really awful company to be stuck with. This movie, it felt like punishment. So at some point she wants to kind of, it's not exactly clear. I mean, she does indicate that she wants to kind of like go out a little bit and sort of tread the waters and sort of explore sort of the scenery and stuff, and just kind of also like spend a little bit of time maybe just like by herself, even though like she has to have Pepe with her. You know, but I guess her plan is to just have him like commandeer the raft, and then she just like doesn't say anything to him. I guess that was originally her plan.
I don't know where they were going. Yeah, I forget.
Yeah. And of course he tells her like the weather's not really looking super great. But of course she doesn't listen.
It's getting late. She's like, I don't care.
Yeah. And so like the reason they get shipwrecked, so they get shipwrecked, but the reason they get shipwrecked is pretty much her fault.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
100%. All her fault.
Yeah. In fact, she continuously makes things worse. At one point, he actually like manages to go to the trouble to like fish, despite the fact that he doesn't have really a fishing pole. You know, he's somebody who's able to really like actually he's got the man skills to fish on his own without really any sort of tools.
His job on the boat was the fisherman as well. So
yeah, exactly. So it's his skill, you know, and so. So he actually goes to the trouble of catching fish, and then she just tosses it back in because she doesn't want to eat it. And then at one point, like they do get kind of a little too far out. They struggle to get back, and they get stuck. And eventually they get back. They get close enough to the boat that it's like, okay, let's try to attract attention. And she ends up actually like she has the flare gun, and she accidentally ends up blowing a hole in the raft.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. And actually that was probably the funniest part of the movie. What was that?
So that was a frustrating moment. I'm like, ugh, Come on.
Yeah.
So cliche.
It was pretty cringe.
They
It
didn't
was
even
pretty
have
cringe
to do
inducing.
that. Like, there's no reason for that. Just make them crash into the island or swim. I mean, paddle over there and.
I guess
cut
they
out
just
that whole
wanted
scene.
you to hate her more.
I mean,
Guy Ritchie
it was
at
hard.
that
Yeah.
at that point of the movie, I guess he decided that there hadn't been enough conflict, so he just decided to create more for no reason. So anyway, so they get to the island, and sparks don't exactly fly, which is not a surprise, at least at first.
I mean, on the
Actually,
island. So I have like this is some weird shit that goes on the island. Do you agree or not?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like this would be the reason why I could see
Yeah,
it being on the bottom, on this bottom list, is just because of the content. Like, it's themes that go on this island. Like, kind of disturbing.
Well, it is a little bit dark because so up until this point in the movie, she's more or less been like treating him like garbage and totally like abusing him basically, and then once they get to the island, the roles totally reverse, and it kind of becomes basically like the same kind of master slave type of relationship, only he's more or less like he's more or less, completely dominating her, like, and like beating her up, throwing her around. At one point, he even ravishes her.
Yeah. Oh, how the turntables!
Yeah, and the movie like really like has to again hammer that. Oh my gosh, the tables have turned. Like, look at this. Look what's going on now. It's exactly what she was doing, all this stuff.
And the thing is too, like I agreed with like the first slap. I was like, okay, she deserved that one. You're like, sure, don't hit women, but if you're in a survival situation and someone's putting your life at risk, you can. I think it's good to give them a little, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's
but it quickly goes way too far.
Oh yeah, because like I hear it, because like as soon as they get to the island, she's really just like she's completely she's continuing, she's totally still in the same mode that she was in before, where she's continuing to just mistreat him and stuff, and then eventually he just slugs her in the face and says, I'm in charge now, this is my domain, and so then she's like, what? And then he slugs her again, and then she's like, okay, but then he keeps doing it. Then he like makes her do chores and stuff, and he just continues to just beat her up
because they find like he finds like a little cabin. He makes like he runs off after slugging her. He's just like, fuck you, fuck off, go fuck yourself. Like literally, I think he said that as he's walking away. Finds a little cabin, makes a spear gun from and he's like living large, and then she finds him, and he won't even let her in. He's just like making her sit outside and shit.
Yeah, like she's a dog or something. It's just like, whoa.
There was that. Oh my god, that again where it gets creepy. It's like there's that one scene where she literally was like a dog. He was chilling at the campfire, and then she crawls up to him, literally starts kissing his feet, kissing him, like gets up on his knees like a dog, and he was petting her like a dog.
Oh yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck
And
what the fuck is this?
I'm guessing that it might have been this aspect of the film that attracted Madonna to this. I mean, aside from the fact that she's married to Guy Ritchie, this aspect might have also sort of had a lot to do with why she like took on this role, because she has actually sort of practiced some of the like sadomasochistic themes in like her like concerts and like music videos, and she's also like, this isn't the first movie she's even done that kind of thing with too. She did it in Body of Evidence with Willem Dafoe, and also there was a book, like a coffee table book that was made in like the late 80s, early 90s, that she published that had like her involved in all these S&M scenarios and stuff. So it's possible that this was kind of her point of entry, like into this project. So that's really the only reason I can think of as to why Guy Ritchie even really made this movie. And obviously it is uncomfortable to watch women getting abused on screen. But I should actually take this opportunity to kind of indicate that the original film did this too. And actually, I would say the original film went a lot further with it.
I could see that if it
However,
was an Italian film.
well, but
they're pretty
however,
misogynistic over there, right? And especially back in those days.
the movie that was made in the 70s, and
Yeah.
just films in the 70s, just in general, especially Italian movies, I would actually go so far as to say, were pretty, like, they were pretty intense. A lot of them, some of them go like to some pretty extreme places. But the original film, though, like, even though they did go really far with it, there actually was like a good reason why they were doing it, why they were doing that, because the original film was actually kind of a satire on like rich people, poor people, and they were actually doing that to kind of illustrate sort of some intelligent like concepts between like what the differences are between like upper class people and lower class people, and how like the upper class take advantage of the poor, and how like the poor people sort of inherit those kind of traits and all that stuff, and like imitate them and stuff like that. But this movie has no self-awareness about that whatsoever.
Yeah, because the thing is, I do think it tried to be funny at points. It was like, it was a rom-com, but I didn't see much comedy.
Yeah, it was really misguided comedy.
Like, it was how early into Guy Ritchie's career was this made? Because I feel he didn't.
It's right after Snatch.
Right after?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that weird?
I feel like this would be one of his first, because I mean, I believe it time-wise because of the actors involved, but like this feels like writing-wise, it could have been like something he wrote in college or some shit. Like,
yeah, I'm really puzzled why he even made it.
Me too. Like, what the fuck was this shit?
But anyway, so after about, and also I should mention there was another part in the movie, actually probably the weirdest part in the movie in my opinion, the part where he makes her sing.
Of course he does. I was like, I didn't even think that was weird. I was like, oh, here's the obligatory Madonna song and dance scene. I thought it might have just been in the contract.
Maybe, yeah. But let's see.
In general, yes, the scenario of making her sing was weird.
Yeah.
But they had to put it in somehow.
Yeah, I guess so. But then, okay, so then eventually something of a spark happens.
Weirdly.
Yeah, it happened really fast, actually.
Instantly.
Yeah.
It was after that dog, because I noticed this, because it was after that dog petting scene. The next day, they were all lovey-dovey. After he was like, "You're my dog." next scene, they were all lovey-dovey and shit. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and so they're having sex on the beach. They're having sex, like, you know, here and there. Yeah, and it kind of turns into sort of like an erotic sort of picture about like being stranded on an island. Although the sex scenes are kind of poorly done. I mean,
yeah,
and I'm not.
Like,
oh yeah,
we've seen our fair share of sex scenes on this podcast, and I'll say for whatever reason, these, even though they were fairly tame visually, they were just, I couldn't get over the fact of the whole dynamic of how, because there was no real redeeming qualities to this guy, and then he just treated her like shit, and then like it was like whatever that I think there's like that Stockholm syndrome for girls in a shitty, I forget what the actual term is in relationships or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
that type of thing. It felt like it was that. Don't know how they fell in love. I don't get that.
Yeah, it just, because they really had pretty much no chemistry, and even after they started having sex, they still didn't really have any chemistry, really. Like, it just kind of felt like it was sort of just them doing it because they had to, you know. Like,
just got bored.
It's like they suddenly got possessed. What?
Yep.
They just got bored.
Yeah, they were having sex out of boredom.
Not a lot to do on that island. I mean, there was one point where she, you know, caught her own octopus after she came into her own.
Yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
I guess the next part was, yes, their little montage of them getting life going, and then she eventually sees a ship out just on the coast, because obviously this island must be somewhat regularly visited, because there was that cottage they found with like a bed and a cot and shit in it that
Yeah.
didn't look completely deserted, just maybe not necessarily used much. But yes, she sees a boat like just out on the horizon, easily waveable, like it was in their coast, like in an alcove, and she kind of just dips and doesn't want to get saved,
Yeah.
which I thought was like,
Pretty
okay,
much.
now what are you doing?
Yeah. Suddenly they were all resistant to it, and then but yeah, they get rescued from the island. Pretty much right after they actually finally sort of get used to living there, and even sort of achieve sort of a strange miniature paradise. Like, okay, well, now they're rescued.
No,
Uh,
and she doesn't want to go because she likes it. She likes the freedom that, whatever the island gave her. Like that, like what you were saying earlier, the rich people not having happiness and stuff. Because he even said, like, you're a rich girl living in New York City, but you're not happy. I'm a poor fisherman, poor happy fisherman. That was like a line that he used. And he was like saying, so I want to, like, they were getting rescued. She was like, no, let's not go, let's stay. And he was like, no, I have to prove this love, prove it in the real world. Let's get back in the real world and prove to me that you love me.
yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like now he's holding her to task, which is like, so, which in a way is actually, in my opinion, kind of an interesting concept, because it's almost like, how far are you willing to take this, and the movie doesn't really do a very good job of presenting that idea, but I still appreciate the fact that they kind of had that, I guess,
Yeah. And then
but
even a
yeah.
little further down, like, they said, oh, they told the guy, oh, you'll even get rewarded, because we were looking for her for a month. So like,
Yeah.
even he has something to decide.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but anyway, so yeah, so they get rescued. They return to civilization. She's still in Italy for a little while. So uh, so yeah, so eventually, like he does try to contact her. It's kind of an emotional moment because they do miss each other, and I mean, it's interesting because there was so much in hostility and tension and all this building, like just anger, that just eventually suddenly they just kind of found their own weird happiness with each other. And so he calls her. They kind of cry over the phone. And he's like, "You have to do this," and she's like, "I don't know if I can. Tell me what to do," and all this stuff. So eventually, he goes to where she's staying, and he leaves like a note, like in the pier where to meet her or meet
Yeah,
him.
he buys a
In
ring
her mailbox.
first and
That's it. Yeah.
leaves a letter at the concierge and says, like, yeah, don't give this, give this to the lady, give this to the lady, but only if she's alone. And he
Right.
slips the concierge a fat tip.
Yeah. Which is like, okay, cool. So at least he's actually kind of like being generous with his money, which is kind of more than what was implied about what she would do if she were in a situation like that.
Yes, because
So
also like, he was given that reward that was mentioned.
that's true.
He tried to say no. He tried to say, fuck off. But
Yeah.
eventually the guy just dropped the money on the ground and ran off. And so
Yeah.
he just took it. He was like, nah, well, okay, whatever, I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, Guy Ritchie, like he does try to give him virtuous qualities. It's kind of too little too late though, because at that point,
Yeah.
like after watching him like beat the crap out of her and like ravish her and do all this stuff to her, there's not really much left for us to really like you really got to work hard to make somebody like that even somewhat emotionally
Yeah.
compelling. And it's just it's
There's
too
no
late in the
save
movie
the
to really
cat.
do it.
There's no save
Huh?
the cat moment.
No, exactly. That would have done it.
Yeah, you need one.
Yeah.
Need some kid in a burden building for him to run into and save him. Oh, okay. He's a good guy.
Yeah, there you go.
Nope. Didn't have that.
Hero. Nope.
So yeah,
So,
they so she does try in the next morning to come down to get the note, but her husband is suspicious, and the concierge did her job. She didn't give her the note because her husband was there, but because the PP said hide the thing, he said hide the note too, because she just put it in like a shelf, and he said no, hide it. So she pushed it back a little further to hide it. Okay, good job, bitch.
yeah.
And then he was like,
Didn't work.
yeah, and so the husband instantly noticed it. Like,
Yeah.
of course he did, and somehow got it. I don't know how he got it, but
Yeah.
he didn't let his wife know that he left a note. She thought he
No,
ghosted her.
exactly. And so then the movie ends with her taking off and she's bawling. And then he's bawling. And then he throws the ring in the water. Close up of the ring floating down. The music from Jerry plays, which I love that piece, by the way. That's one thing I liked about the movie was the music. And then the credits roll. The end.
And I literally, like, when it ended, I was like, oh, it ends here. I was like, well, okay, all right.
Yeah. Surprisingly downbeat ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to get together even. Like, damn.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Did one final twisteroo.
yeah, would have been something, but no. And I mean, the original film, like I said, like the original film more or less has the same plot and the same series of events and stuff, but the original film was actually intelligent about the way they told this story, whereas this movie really just kind of felt like a very like misguided remake that just didn't seem to really understand what it was about the original that like made the plot work. Instead it just felt a bit just like they were just trying to recreate the whole story for no particular reason, and then that's mostly it. So yeah.
Yep.
And that's kind of it, really. Like, I think that pretty much.
Did the original one end the same way with them not getting together?
It did, but like, again, there was a purpose behind it. Like, it wasn't just like a series of what do you call it? It wasn't like just this like stupid sort of compounded little things that prevented them from getting together. It was actually like it actually was done in a more streamlined way that made more sense, because it like the way it all unfolds, it happens like kind of fast, and like the characters just aren't, it's like a whole misconnection type of thing, but it's supposed to be sort of like tragic, it's supposed to have that air of tragedy to it, and how like these two people who are so completely polar opposite can somehow like meet in the middle and like become one. It's sort of emphasizing that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But this film just doesn't really go far enough into those sort of details, into the sort of more emotional territory that would make something like this effective. The original film had a more sophisticated sort of approach to that, but this film just didn't. And I think just Guy Ritchie's style just doesn't suit the material. It just doesn't.
No way.
No.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, not a fucking chance. No.
Yeah.
You think it was Madonna's idea and then she made him direct it?
Probably.
Maybe.
She saw the original. She saw the original one, and hubby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea they were married. That's wild.
Yeah.
And
They've been
Guy
divorced
Ritchie
for a
fan.
while now.
I would say I'm a pretty Guy Ritchie fan, but I had no
Yeah.
idea.
I like Guy Ritchie's movies. I definitely don't like this one. It's not his worst movie in my opinion, but definitely a misstep, I would call it, in his career.
What's his
I
worst,
still think
you'd think?
I really, really, really do not like the new Aladdin movie. I would have to say that's probably my least favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
It felt like it didn't even feel like a Guy Ritchie movie. It felt like it was made by a factory or something. It didn't feel like it was made by a human being. It felt like it was made like almost by like a computer program that took the script of the original film and of the original Aladdin and then like arranged it to make it something that was generic that audiences could go to and enjoy and then completely forget about. You know, this movie was at least like, in my opinion, it was bad, but it was at least bad in an interesting way. And as terrible as it was, like it was over. It was like it was over pretty fast, I felt. Whereas Aladdin just was so generic that like I barely even really remember anything about it. And that's coming from somebody who loves like the original animated movie. I'd say that's probably my least favorite Guy Ritchie film, Aladdin. So.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of studio interference there.
Oh yeah, Disney.
Yeah.
Disney boys.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Were the action scenes at least decent?
In the new Aladdin?
Yeah. That's what I figured would be the only good parts of like Aladdin running through the city streets being a thief in like the first 30 minutes or whatever.
There were some pretty decent moments as far as like the way like some of the sequences were shot. Yeah, I did like some of the early scenes where he was sort of escaping and then part where he escaped from Eve and so scenes that take place and there are some decent action scenes in there. Like down by just the overall just generic quality. The visual look of the film there was nothing special about it. There was nothing captivating about it. The colors didn't really look that good. They added like another song because I guess a lot of people complained about the fact that Jasmine didn't get a song in the original film, so they added one just to make people happy. And it was just auto-tuned crap, and all the songs in the movie were auto-tuned to death. Like everybody sounded like a robot. Will Smith especially had like the most robotic sounding like singing voice. It was awful. And so like the action scenes in it were pretty decent, but just they're hard to really appreciate though because they happen sort of in the middle of a lot of just stuff that's just really really hard to engage with. So yeah. Overall, yeah, that's about it, really.
Yeah. You know what the budget for Swept Away was?
No, what was it?
So the budget was $10 million.
Okay.
Where'd all the money go?
Madonna, yeah. And guess how much it made at the box office?
7 million.
1,036,000.
Oh damn!
And I bet that it still hasn't made back its budget.
We just helped.
Yeah.
Hey, I bought the DVD.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I just rented
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I rented it off of Amazon for $3.99 or whatever, which, you know, I feel justified in criticizing it when I could pay for it. So
Yeah.
I mean, if there's like no way to watch a particular movie and it's like not even available on Amazon or whatever, then whatever. But I do try to pay for it if possible, you know, because I can afford it. So ultimately, I mean, I'm not as rich as Madonna was in this movie, but you know, $3.99 isn't gonna like hurt me too much if I'm gonna rent Swept Away. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What would you guys give it on a scale of 1 to 5?
A 1.
Okay, that's off. That's understandable. Yeah.
How about you?
So. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to give it a 2 because I was at least amused by it, and I will admit that it got better once like the actual like romance stuff happened. Like it still wasn't good, but at least the characters weren't complaining the whole time animore.
I liked
you know, at least they
stuff
stopped
more.
bitching.
I kind of like the
What?
boat I like the boat stuff more because that felt more the most Guy Ritchie, with like those
Yeah.
fucking kitchen guys, and we're just kind of, the dialogue was a little more, even though like watered down Guy Ritchie, but like,
Yeah.
and then it was just kind of a weird ass love romance on the island.
Pretty
And
much. Yeah. Oh
interesting
yeah.
to, definitely not like necessarily cliche because it was abusive and fucking creepy, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I probably would have liked the first half of the movie more if Madonna weren't just so annoying. Just. I think
Yeah.
I messaged in one of my I compared her to Jar Jar Binks. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I still stand by that. So.
Right. I mean, so I don't know, I have conflicting issues with this movie too. I mean, like, so one of my things since childhood I've always loved was the stranded on a desert island scenario type shit. Like,
Me
for a
too.
long time, like Castaway was one of my favorite movies. That, like, when people would ask, oh, it's a Castaway. I love that shit. I love like,
Me too.
just like people like everyone knows, like all my good friends and you guys know I'm a huge like Survivor fan, right? I'm wearing a buff. I got some behind the scenes DVDs, a couple seasons. I have board games.
Oh, wow.
Board games.
Nice.
I have like a whole wall of Survivor memorabilia, and a lot of it isn't like, just because it's an amazing, incredible show. It's like the idea of it is people being stripped down to the bare necessities, the bare essentials, taking away everything that it just takes people into their true self is what basically the whole idea of it. And that's why it's the best like reality show. You don't need to script it. It's like it provides its own content when everyone's down to the bare necessities. And that's why I love all this shit. Like I loved Lord of the Flies. That shit was incredible. Like it turned these kids into these fucking vicious killers because they're back to nature, back to like human whatever, what we all aspired to do or whatever.
Yeah, Lord of the Flies is my favorite novel of all time, and I've read it probably more times than any book. It's my Bible practically. So yeah, no, that makes sense.
And like and like this one kind of does that because it elaborates on that she's a rich rich housewife, but by the end she's catching octopus and shit. But again, I mean, like the survival stuff isn't the reason why I like it, like all that stuff. It's the human aspect of getting back to their roots and animal tendencies.
Yeah.
This one didn't really hit that well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd give it like just because I like Guy Ritchie, I just have a deep connect. Like I watched this one first, and I was still thinking about it the whole way through the other two. I was like,
oh, good.
So it had like, it could have been a movie for me if they did it better.
Yeah.
I'll give it like, I don't know, 1.5.
All right.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I think that's cool. Yeah. What was that?
I just said fair enough.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. Meeting halfway in the middle. I think there's a good concept here. It's just handled ultimately, and I really think a big part of the problem is that Madonna it just doesn't work. Not with her. She just doesn't quite have the appeal really for this sort of material, and it's nothing against her. It's just it doesn't work. I mean, I don't even know what else to say.
Yeah.
That's about all there is to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have even maybe okay-ish if it wasn't Madonna, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Maybe if it was like Jessica Chastain or an actor like that. Like I can think of a lot of actors that could actually pull off a role like this. So I don't know. Maybe another remake one day will suffice. But the thing is, though, people are pretty sensitive about like violence against like women these days, understandably so. So I don't know. I think as time goes on, it's just going to become harder and harder to remake this movie.
I mean, you can
Probably
like do
just-
those
yeah.
you can probably get away with those first 2 slaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably do no more than that. And, make
Yeah.
her work, but not treat her like shit.
Or just make her even more of a bitch than she already was.
That'll be a tough one.
Yeah, it would.
It would be it.
A high bar.
But yeah. But overall, I'd say just stick with the original. That's about it. So.
Yeah, I was gonna watch it, but I just didn't.
Yeah, it's worth watching. Whenever you get a chance. I mean, it is, like I said, it is an Italian movie from the 70s, so there is some difficult aspects to it. Like somebody like me, I mean, I've seen so many of those kinds of movies that I have a pretty high tolerance for intense material like that. So anyway, but on that note, that's swept away. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, peace.
See you later.
See ya.